Okay, let's go and talk about something that we also both played that I think is more your thing, but I also actually enjoy playing it. Lords of the Fallen.
Hey, another Souls-like.
Another Souls. It genuinely was. Like I felt a bit guilty because I was talking with him and I kept referring to it as Souls-like, and I'm like, maybe they're wanting a different identity. But then I'm looking at it and playing it, being like, this is Dark Souls.
I think they know.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's tick off two Souls-likes because we both played Lords of the Fallen, and then afterwards I also played Lies of P. So I can tell you a bit about that as well.
Okay, Gus. Yeah, this embargo is a little bit later for Lords of the Fallen, but we can put both together. Yeah.
So Lords of the Fallen originally came out a few years ago, and this is kind of a remake, but it's more of a reboot.
Yeah.
It's the same name, same kinds of ideas, but as a brand new game. I didn't play the original. I actually have it. I think it was PS3.
Oh, wow, so that's been a while.
Or Xbox 360, or maybe it was PS4. Actually, I can't quite remember.
I thought PS4,
but it was a PS Plus game, so I have it somewhere, and I just didn't get around to playing it.
Oh, it came out in 2014, so that's PS4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a while. I don't think it's sold amazingly well. So now they are rebooting it as a new game, but similar sorts of ideas.
It's also on iOS and Android.
There you go.
Wow.
It is a Souls-like game, and it is literally Dark Souls, basically. It is dark, twisted fantasy. It's taking all of the typical Dark Souls-y kind of gameplay and just doing it with a new name. And in some ways, that makes it incredibly derivative. On the other hand, it's still really good at what it does, and I still think it's really fun. It's really playable. And it does have some of its own new ideas as well, which I guess we'll get to. But it's a Souls game. The controls are immediately familiar. The world feels familiar. It's that twisted, dark kind of vision, nightmarish. You've got your different classes you choose from.
Yeah, what do you think to the different classes? Because you can choose them, and then it changes your entire character, like your silhouette, your size. Like it becomes something completely different.
Well, there's a whole character creator as well.
Yeah.
I just went for the basic soldier melee kind of class.
That's what they recommended for me as well.
Yeah, because it's just easier to get into. So sword and shield, and yeah, basically what we played was the beginning of the game. So there was it was the training area. There was a lot of explanation.
Did you understand all the explanation in the tutorials?
I mean, a lot of it just kind of was obvious and made sense to me as a Souls player. There was some other stuff that was more complicated that we can explain in a minute, but it's basic Souls stuff really. You collect currency from enemies that you kill. You use that to level up in each of the individual stats. You've got a bonfire equivalent. You've got bosses
Leveling
that
up.
are tricky.
Yeah, you level up your strength or your stamina, and then it affects certain stats. Did you level up?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
I just didn't know. Yeah.
And yeah, it feels immediately very, very Soulsy.
Yeah.
The extra twist is that there's another world, which is kind of this, I guess, sort of world of the dead, I want to say. I don't know exactly what it is. The Umbral world, I think it is. And you have a lantern that you can use to shine over the world, and it will show you what is in the mirror world. So it might be that maybe there's a big chasm that you can't cross, and then you shine your light and you can see other platforms or another way. So you can then travel to the other world in order to traverse the environment. But if you stay there for too long,
This is what I found out.
other weird things start to happen and other enemies come up and
Yeah, so
things happen.
I stayed in the other world for a bit too long because I wasn't quite sure how to get out of it, because you can only get out of it at certain areas or at certain points, and I wasn't really. It was confusing me a little bit, some of the controls and that, and I didn't get to the point, or I think I was really close to the point. I think I was actually at the point where you do change, but I wasn't quite sure of the button or what, because there are various buttons when it comes to, or various controls when it comes to, dealing with that part of the world. And yeah, all of a sudden something just appeared out of the ground and started attacking me, and I did literally like no damage to it whatsoever. Managed to dodge it a fair bit, but then it hit me once, immediately dead. I'm like, oh, It just felt a bit like The Butcher, kind of.
Yeah.
And apparently that was just when you're in there too long. Because I spoke to one of the devs, or I think it was the art director, and I was like, "Oh, what was that thing there? That red thing that popped up?" And he was like, "How long were you in the in the Umbral realm or whatever it's called?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I think I was in there for a bit too long."
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. But apparently, like it is beatable, and if you beat it, you get amazing loot. They said.
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, it's a challenging Souls game in itself, but for me, the challenge comes from navigating this dual world and sort of understanding your way around it. And I think that, as you said earlier, is what I don't think it explains that well how to traverse between them and what you get from each. It wasn't super clear.
I played it for like 45 minutes, and I think I needed quite a bit more time to kind of get to grasp with what it was, because there was bits where you found bodies you like pulled things out of.
Yeah, so you can use the lantern to basically attach to the souls of enemies. Sorry, there's a fly next to me. And you can then like yank the soul from people and like attack the soul, which then does more damage to them. So you can use the lantern in both realms to do different things, which feels quite complicated. I think it's maybe the developer thinking we need to add some complexity to this to differentiate ourselves from Souls, because otherwise it works very, very similarly to a Souls game. It's got a sort of looping environment and you unlock shortcuts as you go.
Oh, did you? I didn't go to any shortcuts.
Yeah, so it sort of does that, and then eventually I could see this archway leading to a big arena, and I was like, oh, I think there's a boss there.
And how was your time with the boss? Because I beat the training boss.
Yeah, did that too. And then you die on another one, which you're meant to. It's fine. So yeah, there was a German guy next to me who I think must have been a sort of influencer, and he had his friends filming him playing it. And I think he must have got to the boss quicker than me, because I could hear him shouting like, Maladia, Maladia. And I was like, oh, okay. As in from Elden Ring. So I think he was struggling with the boss a bit. So eventually I saw this arena and was like, okay, cool. We've got a boss coming. So we go in, and it's this sort of female soldier with a massive spear sort of swiping away at you. And I was like, okay, dodging behind, stab, not too difficult, a nice level of challenge. Halfway through, she transforms. Huge wings. She's flying around. They're like arrows falling down, like huge light-based attacks, all this stuff. So I died. Sadly. Went back to the checkpoint, your bonfire equivalent.
How far is it from the...
Not far.
Okay,
good. It was literally around the corner.
Good.
And outside there was the equivalent of summons. So in the Souls games, you can summon NPCs to come and help you. And this, again, has the same thing. So I summoned a guy to come in and help. He died during the first phase, which I'd got through already. I was like, great, thanks for your help, mate. But it helped me a little bit, I guess, just to get through it quicker. She transforms, and I managed to get her down to literally one hit, and she killed me. And I was like, no, and kind of put the controller down. However, when you die in this game, when you're in the real world, it takes you to the Umbral world. And you can then continue in the Umbral world. And if you kill the boss, it takes you back to the normal world.
Yeah.
And I realized the first time I did the boss, I was still in the Umbral world, because I'd been in, like you, I got lost and didn't know how to get out. So I was in it. So I basically died straight away. But had I got to her and the second time in the normal world, when I died, I then could continue, but in the Umbral world instead. So I could then literally just run up and quickly stab her and kill her. So I managed to do it.
And what did they say?
Oh, no, they just said, well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Liza P, wasn't it? Where,
That's what I was getting to. So I managed to defeat the boss. I was like, do you know what? I've got another meeting in a minute, so I need to head. So I ended it at that point. But it was great fun. Great fun. Like I said, it feels like a Souls game.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, a blessing and a curse, in that it feels familiar. It feels comforting as a Souls fan. This is something you can just drop into. You know exactly what you're going to get. You know exactly what the controls are, and you can just jump in and enjoy it. And that's great. I don't think it, like the extra Umbral World thing adds complexity. I don't know if that's quite enough for it to stand out and seem like an original game, but it's still really fun to play.
It really is, and it looks gorgeous as well. Yeah, you say it's Unreal Engine.
That is also Unreal Engine, yeah. So to me, it so it kind of looks to me like how Elden Ring should have looked.
Was it? Oh, I'm trying to think. Was it Lords of the Fallen where they were talking about they were using certain things from the Matrix? Did they bring that up with
I have
you?
no idea.
You know the Matrix demo, Unreal Engine 5?
Yep.
I'm not going to say any more because it might not be Lords of the Fallen, but there was a game that used UE5 that you... No, it wasn't. It wasn't them. It was something else. It was... a Bulwark,
Let's check our
Falconeer
list.
Chronicles that used the Matrix stuff.
Interesting.
But yeah, so that was
Lords of the Fallen.
There's Lords of the Fallen, but let's tie it up with your Liza P.
Yes. So just to tick off the last remaining Souls-like, because look, I like a Souls game, all right? And I just happen to have seen 3 of them.
You are a glutton for punishment, and you get very, very angry. And I'm so glad that you're currently playing Sea of Stars right now, which sounds like a much calmer game.
Well, Armored Core is to come, so
yeah,
that's
I wish you had the physical one so I could hide it. I can literally hide it and allow it when I'm out. Can you do that? Can you just only play Armored Core when I'm out the house?
No, I'll play it whenever I damn well feel like it.
Damn it, I'm going to.
So Liza P, I got to play. Now, I already played the demo that came out a couple of months ago, which they released to the public. So I think quite a lot of people have played it. And I think a lot of people bounced off it because Liza P is Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And it's this Belle Epoque era fantasy kind of Victorian style city. And you're playing as Pinocchio. It has a very Bloodborne-y feel and look to it, which makes it feel like it's like Lords of the Fallen is to Dark Souls. Liza P kind of is to Bloodborne, but it's actually not really. Like, it looks a bit Bloodborne-y.
And Black Myth is to Sekiro?
To me, Black Myth feels the most original.
Yeah.
If I'm honest. Liza P, it looks more Bloodborne-y, but actually I think you can dodge, but you can also parry in Liza P. I don't think the parry is very satisfying, but I think that's the way they want you to play it, because you can parry all of the bosses and then stun them, and that basically is how you get through all the bosses.
Okay.
And one of the things from the demo a lot of people found is that the dodge is not very good. It just doesn't feel very responsive. It's not quick enough. It just didn't feel good to play. And I was using the dodge a lot and also felt that, and then thought, right, I'm going to start parrying instead, and realized, okay, actually, I think the parry is what they want you to do. But a lot of people complained about the dodge. And I think because of that, it's maybe put people off. They, from feedback from the demo, have now changed the dodge. The dodge works as it should.
Good.
So
Breaking news.
Got to play the a new demo, a different part of the game. The first bit was just in the city, so I played that for a little bit, and already I could feel the dodge was different. I then jumped to a different save file in the demo, which was in an opera house. It felt very grand and opulent and was really cool. And the PR said to me, look, just run through it quickly. You can dodge all the enemies, just run through it in order to get to the boss and unlock a shortcut, which is what I did and got to the boss, which was this in the stage area of the opera house. And there were some puppets on the stage. And then this hulking great beast of a robotic puppet, or I think was called the Puppet King, kind of dropped down. And then it was a boss fight, which was really cool.
Was that the person we met? The voice actor?
No.
Okay.
No, different.
We met the voice actor of a boss in Liza P.
Yes, but that was the donkey-headed guy.
Oh, that was right. Yeah, Donkey Man.
Which is from the demo, which is much earlier in the game. What I played is a lot later in the game.
Gotcha.
So they'd unlocked loads of different weapons I could try out to see what they were like. So lots of different swords and great swords, which were a bit slow, so I stuck with the normal swords. So it was me against this boss, and I immediately felt that the dodge felt better. Good. So it felt so much smoother. It felt a lot more responsive, which was great. I think maybe the second try of this boss, I managed to defeat it.
Nice. Did you confirm that did you say you confirmed with the guy that they'd fixed the dodge?
I had an interview, and yes, I checked that. I have a quote.
On Eurogamer?
Yes, it will be on Eurogamer by now. So it was me against the boss, and yeah, for me, as I said, actually standing still and learning to dodge and parry, not dodge the attacks, actually is a much more effective strategy. Now, in that sense, in some ways, I'm slightly disappointed by the boss, because that's how I got through the bosses in the demo. And this is a lot later on, a different boss, and I kind of just used the same strategy of stand beneath it, parry, and stab it in the balls, basically. Because you're tiny and just between its legs, and I'm like, oh, I'll just stab you here.
Just like in real life.
Exactly. But it was very effective, and it worked. And I got through the boss, and I was like, yes, I did it. Because there was a guy next to me who was really struggling, and he literally stopped and put his controller down to watch me play it next to him.
Work out how to do it.
Yeah. And then it turns out that wasn't the end of the boss, because the puppet opens, and inside is someone else that you then have to defeat, who's obviously incredibly hard. And I got it down a bit of health, but I was struggling by that point because I'd used a lot of my health potions.
Yeah.
So I struggled. But the director then came up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, from Korea. And in English, his best English, bless him, was literally like, you're really good at this. And I was like, me? And he was like, you've got a really good strategy. Like, your strategy is right. No one else is playing it like you, which I think, because everyone else is trying to dodge the attacks. And I was like, no, parry them to get the right timing. And I said to him, look, I played the demo, and so I kind of got the gist of it, and I understood that parrying was right. And he was like, oh, yeah, good strategy. And then basically I turned around, and I think most of the team were watching me play it to see if I could get through this boss. And I managed to do it another time, but then didn't get through the second phase. So I didn't quite fully finish it, which was annoying. But yeah, that was really fun. So,
and actually, it was interesting because I was talking to the developers at Lords of the Fallen, and I was doing, and I think I'd done some parrying because I'd worked out the smaller enemies are quite easy to parry, and I was doing it. I did like every enemy I faced, I ended up parrying because there's this area where there's like 4 of them, and I'm like, I'm just gonna practice my parry with these ones. And one of the guys behind James, who I know, he was saying like, oh great, it's great to see you parry, no one else is doing it. Like no one else has been playing it. And I asked you, and you were like, nope, didn't parry.
I didn't. I tried to parry in Lords of the Fallen, and I really struggled.
It's very specific, it's very precise, but it's also I think it's a lot easier on the smaller enemies.
Probably. Yeah. So your 3 Souls-likes, basically, you've got Lords of the Fallen, which is Dark Souls. If you like Dark Souls, you're going to feel absolutely at home there. It's a really fun game, but is very much within that style. You've got Lies of P, that I think combat-wise is maybe slightly different. I don't think it feels quite as satisfying, but I do think that overall it has a slightly different style. The fact you're playing as Pinocchio the puppet, all of the enemies are mechanical puppet beasts, creatures, creations. Yeah. The way you level up, you have your P organs. Don't laugh. Which you can swap in and out. So everything feels very mechanical. So it has a very specific theme that everything's tied to, and I like that. Even if combat doesn't, it's better than the demo, but it's not quite as satisfying as it could be. Yeah. And then Black Myth Wukong, that is this Chinese folklore, fairy tale fantasy, with incredible combat and a really, really cool sense of style. I just don't know how it plays outside of the bosses, but the bosses itself and combat is fucking brilliant.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, you've been treated. You've been fed.
I have been. I ate.
No, that's different. No.
O holy Aureus, by your radiance grant me the strength to continue to endure these dark days, to lay bare the path to salvation for my wayward brothers and sisters, so we may walk it together, and to strike down all those who would see our will defied. Even as our suffering continued, I honored my pledge of patience to the exactor. And yet you now appear before me, a stranger, bearing what was not yours to receive. A betrayal made flesh, and one I cannot brook. holy.
Just remember, in the end, you're better off alone.